On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tacova store. So stop by Tacova's Nashville, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tacova's Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacova's. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Nashville, District 17 Metro Council member Terry Vo and I are talking about groceries. From food deserts to Nashville's specialty grocery stores where you can find the ingredients you can't find at big chain stores. We've also got you covered with a couple recommendations of Nashville's best overlooked restaurants that really show you the culinary diversity of the city. July is actually National Culinary Arts Month, and it's never a bad time to get to know your council members. So let's get cooking. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tacova's. It's July 25th, I'm Grace Fuse, and this is what Nashville's talking about. So your current legislative priority is trying to get more grocery stores across the county in neighborhoods that need them. Can you first just explain what a food desert is and how they impact residents of those areas?
Yeah, for me, I like to use the terminology food apartheid because deserts are natural and they're beautiful. I love deserts myself. So I think that food apartheid really more defines the situation. So for me, there are areas that have been divested in, and I would say they've needed them. And actually, historically, you'll see even like smaller grocery stores, they've actually left the area and they haven't been replaced, or they haven't, had the reinvestment for the neighbors and the communities that have been using them. And so I think about those individuals. And then for me, all of my constituents that may have gone there, they have no place to go. When I was door knocking, one of my constituents told me she spent half of her monthly budget on paying for grocery delivery.
Oh,
that literally blew my mind and made me sad.
Yeah.
Because now you're spending, on the delivery cost. So she's not able to do other things. And then, I think that's where for me, it's like transit and food, all of us are connected, right? Our home, it's like our home, our food, our transit, because if she could get to a grocery store on her own, she could go. But since she couldn't, right, she had to rely on someone else.
Yeah.
And not everyone has friends who have vehicles. So you have to pay for that service. And sometimes, when you don't have your own vehicle, you are at the mercy of someone else. So, for example, you might have to bulk up and buy for the whole month. So then that limits your offerings because, sure, maybe you'll have fruits and vegetables on your first week and a half. But what do you do for the other 3.5 weeks?
I think there's probably a direct correlation to the places where we don't have as much transit access to the places where we don't have grocery stores. So why do more wealthy neighborhoods attract them?
It's, in some ways how our society operates, right? Like with capitalism versus, when we talk about like what we see in a neighborhood and what is expected and what does every neighborhood deserve. So this is real life right now happening like in Davidson County. Okay. So for me, my district, right, like in the urban core, just south of downtown. And on one side of my district, on 8th Avenue, you have a Kroger that's been there forever. And then you have a Publix down the street. Yep. You can walk to either of them. And then on the complete other side of my district, I would say majority of my neighborhoods, where there is density, no question, there is nothing, like literally nothing. And then I was talking to a colleague of mine, and she was telling me that they are being offered a grocery store. And my mind was blown because she was like, Terry, we already have 3 in the area, like 3 that you can get to.
Right.
And so I think for me, a couple of issues that we have is that I think, how do we use our power and how do we, to me, build a coalition that says that the way we do like business and the way we, support grocery development, it's not working for the people of Nashville. And for me, it's like, how do we become that answer? Like today, I went to the ribbon cutting at the grand opening of the Strobel House, right? And this project, of course, started many years ago. But now there's, 90, permanent homes for, individuals in our unhoused community that, need a space and need a place so they can, safely get back on their feet. I want that same energy, but faster, for our food gaps and our food insecurities. How do we identify them in the districts across the county? And how do we say this is a priority? Because I tell you, when we do this, when we prioritize the food, a lot of other issues where people with health conditions, with people, like not being able to afford other issues because they're choosing between food or, paying their bills, that will dramatically change. And so I wish that we would really, focus on that. And I wish that we would push back when people tell me, sorry, we can't put a grocery store there because there's crime. Whenever we say that, we are saying that certain types of people don't deserve access to food. And I do not believe that. I believe everyone deserves access to food.
And not just food, but fresh food and food that you enjoy. I mean, hopefully. And obviously, if you're spending a ton of money on food delivery because you can't actually physically get to the grocery store, I mean, of course, other things are going to come at the cost of that. Do you think that farmers markets or community-supported agriculture can help fill in this gap?
Oh, yeah. So I totally support CSAs. I love them. I think farmers markets as well. With those, it matters too, because who does it attract? Who are the vendors? And can people get there, right? Because once again, if it's not accessible, they're not going to walk in the heat to go shop in the heat, right? So I think about that, those obstacles just physically. And then I also think price point, because I've been shopping, right, at the farmer's market. And sometimes I'm like, well, I'll get this week because if I get all the things I want at the farmer's market, then I really don't, I've already busted through my food budget for the month. So I think that, that's a reality. And then with CSAs, I think there's lots of ways we can improve how we interact with CSAs in our community. I feel closer to the farmer. And I love knowing who I'm supporting, right? I love supporting a family, a community. And I really like it because CSA is not just food. Some CSAs have flowers because they're grown on the farm. And, some I know have other additives, it might be honey or things like that. So I think that's really cool. And I wish that we would maybe highlight those more. How do you get the word out to community members who have never heard of CSAs? And oftentimes, to me, I think that the pickup is a barrier. And then sometimes the cost, you can't pay it all up front. What if they don't like the food? What does that look like, right? When oftentimes, right, we want to try something. And then also with CSAs, you're going to make what you are given. And what if you don't have any other ingredients? Because this is what you banked on, for your food for the week.
Why do we need small grocery stores? How's that different than shopping at a Kroger or something?
It's so funny, people say small business is the backbone of, the United States. And I think that bodegas, smaller grocery stores have their space too. And I think that they can provide and really know if a community needs something. They can answer that call a lot quicker than, a big box grocery store. So I think that there's room for both. Just when we want to, maybe, for example, for me, I love to cook Vietnamese food and I can't get all my ingredients, at a Kroger or a Publix. For me, I'm going to Enter Asia. I'm going to KNS because they have specific items that I need. So, for me, we need both and. I'm
so glad you said that because I was about to ask where I can get groceries for Vietnamese food. Where do I find these specialty grocery stores for different cultural foods?
I feel like we're really lucky. In Nashville, Middle Tennessee, there are quite a few, and then there's more coming along the way, which is very exciting. So I highly recommend Enter Asia. And they have all, various types of items that you can purchase. And I would say the entire Asian diaspora. So not just Vietnamese food, but what's neat about them is they also have a deli component. So you can also buy lunch. You can also order food on the weekends. If you like roasted pork, Vietnamese style, the kind I love, you can get those on the weekends. And then Sonobana is a restaurant on the west side, and they actually have a little grocery store right next to them. And I think that's really awesome. And if you're specifically asking about like Vietnamese food, chợ An Dong, it is on the west side as well, but it is in the shopping center where like King Yang and where Lucky Bamboo, I think they're about to close or if they've already closed, but where they're listed and next to KNS. So on the other side of that shopping center, you can go shop there, and that's a Vietnamese owned store.
I make a lot of Indian food that I try to make like as authentic as I can. So I go to a lot of like Indian specialty grocery stores to get like my spices, because you got to have the whole spices and grind them up together if you want to do it right.
Have you been to Suraj Spices and Teas?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, I have. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's amazing, right? And I know like she's not a grocery, but like she has the spices that are like perfection for, things like you want when you're cooking. And then we're really grateful like to have the Patel brothers as well in their grocery store, also on Nolensville Pike, right? Just further down.
I am already hungry, but we're going to take a break and then come back and talk more about food, specifically about your love for food. We'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so I'm here with council member Terry Vo. We're going to talk about your love for food. Since you're an expert, I'd love to get your recommendations on the best overlooked restaurants in town.
Where do I begin? There are so many amazing restaurants. I would say, I think more and more people are knowing about them, but I think Jerusalem Rebar is delicious. Have you eaten there?
I think yes, but I don't remember it all that well.
It's like Middle Eastern, Palestinian food, and it is so wonderful. We had them catered for my book club. And okay, I know it's not open yet, but next to it is going to be the first Pakistani restaurant in Nashville. So it's called Nihari House, and it's coming soon. So I know when it opens, I will be one of the first to go eat there. I think that I also love Osh. It's an Uzbek restaurant in town. That's so great. And then Taylor is tucked away in Germantown, and they do first generation cuisine. I really love like the Vex take. And what's really neat is that the food that you get at his restaurant, you can't find it like anywhere else. And I think that's like so wonderful. I think that food is such a great experience. I think it allows you to taste a culture, right? Like, and really understand and hear the backstory. And I think that when we have, more offerings and more restaurants that people can go to, it helps us to open our eyes and open our minds about cultures, about ethnicities, about people that we may have had perceptions or our only interaction is what we read about them. And I think going to restaurants and eating the food, right? Consuming the food is another step in, deepening our own understanding. And then, of course, you can go further and further and, have friends and learn the language and, go visit, that country or that place if you can and meet friends. And even me, like being Vietnamese, there's so much like Vietnamese cuisine. And I feel like I know everyone is very familiar with pho. But for example, like my favorite noodle dish is bún riêu, and it's a crab noodle soup.
Oh, yum.
It's a specialty I make at home. I grow my own tomatoes, and it's a tomato-based soup. And then you have crab, you can put shrimp, tofu. It's incredible. All the works. And my mom is like, oh my gosh, you put so much crab in there.
I'm like, where do you get your crab?
Soup here. So with the crab, honestly, since we live, I'm kind of landlocked, I just go and buy the canned like crab at the grocery store, and then use that to make my riêu. And like, if you're translating the word riêu, I feel like it's in some ways, it's not accurate. Like, it's not a meatball, but it's kind of like, it's blended and then turned in, and then we put them into balls, and they'll have pork. So it'll be ground pork, it'll be crab, some other spices and herbs. And then we put that in the soup at the end. While we let, of course, the broth and everything prepare.
Oh my God, yum. Terry, I don't know if the mic is picking up my stomach grumbling, but it is so very loud.
And 1 in 7 here in Nashville are foreign born. That's 15% of our population. And so, I think that there's so many more opportunities for intercultural exchange. And I really hope that, and I feel like that's why the restaurants and food, they're on the front lines of that, right? Of how we bridge our communities together.
You've mentioned a lot of new restaurants. Where do you find all these new restaurants to check out?
Yes. So I am a Yelp elite.
Okay, I was just about to get there to your secret identity as a Yelper, but great. I'm glad you went right into it. Please.
Yes. And so I have been, part of Yelp for I've been a Yelp elite for like 12 years, so over a decade, which is really wild to me. And so I always would look up restaurants, put in the different cuisines around town. And then another thing, I love Nashville Hidden Gems. Anna does such a great job in sharing all types of different cuisines around our area. And I like that it's Middle Tennessee, so it's not just focused, hardcore in one area of Nashville. So I really love that. And then there are different food influencers like Eat Nashville. I follow them. And so, and then talking with my friends. I love food. We love food. So when we're not cooking food together, we're always talking about where should we go and share a meal together? Where should we go and break bread? And, you love Indian food. So have you eaten at Nawabi, Hyderabad?
I have been to every
Biryani
Indian
house?
restaurant within 20 miles, probably. So yes.
It's so good. I really like that. And I think it's always fun to discover new places. And I love pop-ups. I think pop-ups are such a great way to support someone because they're trying something out and they haven't had to go through all the, I feel like, corporate stuff, like look for a place, have a contract, pay the rent. They're really trying to test, the market and just cook what they love. And I think that is honestly some of the most beautiful things that you can do for anyone is when they have a pop-up, go out and help this person, help this group, sell out all of their food.
What kind of food do you wish we had more of in Nashville?
Okay, I will tell you. I want a dim sum restaurant. Hands down. We need that. Period. Also, we need an Indonesian restaurant or a Malaysian restaurant. I think that the food is so incredible, so delicious. And no, not all Asian food tastes the same. They're so vastly different. And for me, those additions would be huge for Nashville. I think that it would just expand our palate, which would be really great. And I would love for me a place that's I feel like the late night scene. I feel like our late night scene could, I think expand a little bit, have more offerings, because I'll tell you, I love Dino's.
I was just going to say, I love Dino's, but I just spent a week at Burger Week having smash burgers. And I literally 2 days ago, I was like, it's 10 p.m. and I need a snack. And I cannot have, I love Dino's. Don't get me wrong. I just can't keep doing it.
Dino's, we love you. I love Dino's. We love you. But, it's I want something else late at night. And it's so funny. So in Australia, when I used to live there, late night after you're going out and then before you go home, we like kebabs. That was the thing.
I feel
like in Australia it was kebabs. Here in the States it's hot dogs, right?
Yeah.
So but it was very fascinating and I really loved that. And it's so funny. There's a couple of things I feel like when I was living in Australia, they had these meat pie shops. I feel like they, I think it'd be easy grab and go. So I feel like, what does that look like? And then they all have different varieties of meat pies. But my top wishes would be dim sum restaurant, go and get the carts, go with your friends. It's always busy. It's always popping. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot this, but a Peking duck place.
Oh, yes.
Serves
that would be
Peking duck.
Awesome.
Yes,
absolutely.
We definitely need that. And then I think, oh my gosh, all day, Grace. I can just keep
This
going.
was a bad question to do last.
This was really bad because I also think that our sweets game.
Yes.
We could expand on that. I think like we've got a lot of ice cream, but I think we need different types of desserts. So for example, I was just in Philadelphia and I went to this matcha panda house.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So the founder is Japanese, and they talked about how when they came to the States and they saw the quality of the green tea, of the matcha, and the color, they just were like not about it. So they decided to like import their own from like Uji, Japan. And then of course they serve like matcha, like green tea, but then they have matcha ice cream. Then they have like roasted matcha, like ice cream.
Oh.
Then you can also buy like cream puffs, crepe cakes, and then a mix of drinks. And so I love that. It doesn't necessarily need to be like matcha, but I think that more a variety of like dessert shops would be very, very exciting.
Okay, I could talk about that all day. My brother got me a matcha crepe cake for my birthday like 2 years ago. I know. He like had it delivered like from, I think, like New York. He had a special matcha crepe cake delivered. I'll make sure to send him this episode so he knows he's getting a shout out. Now that I'm absolutely starving, thank you so much. I really hope that the restaurateurs of tomorrow are listening so that they get their recommendations, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye!